Okay, in section 2.3 we're looking at the location of the data. So there's two common measures of location, quartiles and percentiles. So quartile is going to separate your data into 4 groups. Each of those groups is going to have about 25% of data within each group. Now before you find your quartiles, your data has got to be in order from the smallest to the largest. The first quartile, which we just call Q1 most of the time, I do anyway, that is the bottom 25% of your data. Second quartile, or Q2, which is also called the median, that is the bottom 50%. And third quartile, or Q3, is the bottom 75%. Now when you find the quartiles may or may not be part of your data that you're given. So like this one, we're going to find the quartiles, and the easiest one to do is to find Q2 or the median first. So first off, your data, is it in order? And yes, this one is in order. So I'm going to find, let's see, now how many do I have? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 numbers. So since I have an even number of data values, I'm going to find the 2 numbers that are in the middle, which are the 10 and the 15. Notice I got 3 numbers on this side, 3 numbers on that side. So this is going to be 10 plus 15 divided by 2, or halfway between those 2 numbers, which will give me 12.5. Okay, so then what I'm going to do, since I've got 2 numbers, I'm going to take this little section here. Since I got 4 numbers there, 2 middle numbers, that'll be 3 plus 6 over 2, which that's going to give me 4.5. And then I'm going to look at these 4. The 2 in the middle are the 21 and the 28 divided by 2, and that's going to give me 24.5. Okay, so if I break this up, I got 4.5, so that's about here. 4.5. 12.5 is here. And 24.5 is here. Notice I broke my data up into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is Q1. This is Q2, or the median, and this is Q3. Remember, Q1 was the bottom 25%. This was bottom 50, bottom 75. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers total. How many are here, starting here, going this way? I've got 2. So 2 divided by 8, that's a fourth, or 0.25. Bottom 25%. From here all the way down, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 divided by 8, or a half, or 0.50. Bottom 50%. Here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 over 8. If I take a 2 out of both of them, then I've got 3 over 4, or 0.75, or the bottom 75%. And you notice in each one of them it's about 25 because I have 2 numbers out of 8. So each one of these little section has 25%. So if I add all of them, 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25, that would give me 100%, or all of my data. Now notice that these numbers here are not actually in my data set. They're different numbers, and sometimes you'll get the number that's in the data set, sometimes you won't, like we did here. Now something called the interquartile range, or we just call it the IQR. What it's going to do is going to show the middle 50% of your data. Now to find it, you're going to take Q3 minus Q1. Now the reason we would want to find this, it's used to determine if you've got potential outliers. So what you're going to do is you're going to find your IQR, Q3 minus Q1, multiply that number times 1.5 every single time, and then you're going to add it to the third quartile, subtract it from the first quartile. Okay, so say we've got 13 real estate prices here, and we want to find the IQR, and we want to see if there's any potential outliers. So here's my data, and I've got 13 of them. We notice that they're not in order, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in order, and I need another 0 right here. Okay, and I've got 13 of them, so I need to find one number that is in the middle, which is this one right here. Notice I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers over here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers over there. So this number is smack in the middle. So that is my median, or my Q2. Now, I'm going to look at this little set right here. It's like we ignore this one if we're going to find Q1 and Q3 if we've got an odd number in our data set. And I'm going to find the two numbers that are in the middle of that little section. So this is going to be these two right here. So I'll take 235 plus 387, and I'm going to divide that number by 2. And what we get is 308,750. Okay, for Q3, I'm going to look at this section over here and find the two middle numbers, which should be this one right here and this one right here. So we have 639 plus 659, and we're going to divide that by 2, and what we get for that is 649. Okay, so there's my Q3 and my Q1. So in order to find my IQR, I need to subtract these two numbers right here. Okay, so we have 649 minus our 308,750, and that's going to give us 340, 250. Okay, so there's our IQR, and that's the first thing that they asked us to find. So we got that part done. And then what we're going to do is take 1.5 times the number that we just found. And then that's going to give us 510, 375. Then we're going to take our our Q1 minus 1.5 times our IQ1, or IQR, and that was 308,750 minus 510, 375. That's going to give us a negative number. So that's going to be negative 201, 625. And then we're going to take Q3, so 649 minus 510, 375. That's going to give us 1,159,375. Okay, now what we just did was we just found a range for our real estate. If we have a range between negative 201,625 and 1,159,375, any numbers within this range, no outliers. But if you go outside that range, that's when you have outliers on either side. Now, since we're talking about real estate, and real estate is not going to be in the negative numbers, so we don't have to worry about this side, we need to find any numbers that are above 1 million. So if we went back to our data set here, we notice that, get rid of all this. Okay, here's 1 million right here, This one is 5 million. Okay, so this one's way over our limit. So that $5 million house is actually an outlier because it goes outside of this range. So therefore, that one is an outlier. Okay, percentiles. Percentiles are going to separate the data into 100 parts, and about 1% of the data is going to be in each of those parts, and we're going to have 99 percentiles. So notice we have 100 parts, 99 percentiles. With the quartiles, we had 4 parts, but 3 quartiles. So for this one, your data has still got to be in order from the smallest to the largest. Now what percentiles do is it's used to compare values within a certain group. So it's kind of like your standardized test. If you go take the test on 2 different days, and if you do the exact same thing on the test, then you might get 2 different scores because it's comparing you to everybody else who took that test on that day. Okay. Now here's our formula for finding percentiles of value x. Is the number of data values less than x, whatever you're looking for, plus the number of data values of x, how many did that occur, always times 0.5 is just your formula, divide by how many data values you have, and then times 100. So if we have this, you scored an 87 out of 100 on the test, 39 people scored lower than you, there are 54 people in the class, a grade of 87 only occurred once. Okay, so find the percentile of 87. So how many people scored lower than an 87? Well, it says 39. Okay, so 39 and then plus. Well, how many 87s occurred in the class? Only once. So 1 times 0.5. Remember that 0.5 is just part of the formula. How many people took the test? Well, 54. And then times 100. So what you'll get is 73, or the 73rd percentile. And you could write it as P sub 73. That's also another way of writing that. This is looking at group data. Okay, so it's grouping into A, B, C, and D grade. So what you're going to do is add the percent of the class that are below the score plus half of the cases that are at the score that you're looking at. And then down here it says, well, why do you take half? Because you shouldn't imagine that you got, we're looking at B here, the best B or the worst B, just a middle B. Okay? So if we're looking for the percentage of, or percentile of B, so here's B, and it says I'm going to add the percentage that are below, so these two, so 12 plus 50, and then half of my 30, so I got 12 and the 50, half of the 30, which is 15, so 12 plus 50 plus 15 is 77%, or P sub 77, or the 77th percentile. Okay, now if you're trying to find the kth percentile, well, we've got a few definitions. K is going to be the kth percentile, going to be the position of the data value, and that's going to be really important. N is the total number of data that you have, and since we're looking for a percentile, you still need to put the data in order from smallest to largest. And this is our formula right here. Now you could get 2 things for I. Number 1, if I is an integer, then the k percentile is the data value in the ith position, okay, in the order data set. If I is not an integer, so say it's got a decimal, like 4.1, okay, then you're going to round I up and round I down to the nearest integer, and you're going to take the average of the 2 data values in those 2 positions. Okay, so let me show you what I mean here. Okay, for part A, we're going to find the 70th percentile. We've got 29 data values here, and looks like they're already from the smallest to the largest. So K is 70, N is 29 because we got 29 data values here, and then we're looking for I, so I